Hi, I'm Jack Weeks with GPM Hydraulic Consulting, the nation's leader in fluid power training, troubleshooting, and reliability.
And I'm Alan Dellinger. This is a new show called No Pressure, where we answer hydraulic or pneumatic questions from our customers or any listeners. So they may write in or even call and leave a message, but we answer their questions here.
Very good. What we got?
The first question I have, this is from Philip Ramos. He is in Texarkana, Texas. He says, I have a lot of leaks in my hydraulics, and my question is, what causes leaks and what can I do to eliminate them?
Wow, that's a pretty common question. Certainly a common problem. I can't remember the last hydraulic system I witnessed that didn't have at least some kind of leak. In fact, a lot of people think that the system is supposed to leak a little bit. It's not, by the way. It doesn't have to leak a little bit. If it leaks even a drop, it needs to be addressed. But when they get to be a real problem, when they start costing production, when they start costing a lot of money in lost oil and cleanup and that kind of thing, it needs to be addressed. Well, what causes a leak? Well, the leak gets caused because the machine doesn't contain it. That sounds simple enough, but why doesn't it contain it? Well, there's a number of reasons why it might not. It might be a design issue. Usually that's not the case, at least not in my experience. Every now and again, I'll see where a different type of fitting should have been used, but most leaks are the result of a bad installation. As a matter of fact, we were contracted at one point to train contract installers for a major tire company because new systems that were being installed were leaking from day one. And that got to be a pretty popular class for a lot of companies. But that's where most of them come from, is a poor installation. It might be that the installer didn't know what schedule of pipe to use. It might be that he didn't know what type of fitting would work better than another. The more that's specified by the designer, the better we're going to be. There are best practices that need to be followed when this installation is performed. Proper fittings, go by pressures that we're going to be experiencing in the machine. Never use pipe fittings. Those are great in the bathroom. A high pressure hydraulic machine, there's no place for them there. Sealants. A lot of people are all about some pipe dope and even Teflon tape. Now, we don't even like to talk about Teflon tape, but if you're going to use Teflon tape, one wrapping and that should be enough. But again, Teflon tape's good in the bathroom, not so good on a hydraulic machine. The best I've found is made by Loctite. JIC fittings, Loctite makes a solid product called Flare Tight, and that makes a superb seal on any JIC fittings. Now, that's not the only thing that can cause a leak. If you don't mount a cylinder properly, for instance, if it flexes too much, a lot of times that will cause it to leak. Your pipes need to be properly mounted. I've seen things like electrical conduit connectors used instead of pipe clamps. I've seen coat hangers and duct tape, all kind of great ideas. But a proper pipe clamp should have some flexible material and steel. Top and bottom, it should be welded, not bolted, and at least every 6 feet. And in some cases closer than that, and within 6 inches of any termination. When they break loose, they need to be replaced. A lot of places I've visited, the pipes are moving all over the place because they rusted through and the clamps broke loose, or they just vibrated loose over time. They need to be replaced and repaired. What about how we operate the machine? I know we don't have any knob turners out there, do we? Yeah, I just bet we don't. Every plant I've ever visited had at least one knob turner. His name is usually not me. Right. And not me, who messed with the knob over there, not me. Not me gets around pretty good. And when not me gets hold of something, he always turns it up. He never turns it down. I can't recall the last time I went to a plant and said, well, here's your problem, somebody turned this down. Well, that doesn't happen. But I see plenty of places where it got turned up and left that way.
So pressure set too high.
Pressure set too high will definitely do it because any increase in pressure is going to give us an increase in shock, and it's an exponential thing. If you have the pressure turned up an extra 200 psi, shock spikes might go up an extra 2,000 psi.
Well, Jack, I got a question for you. You're talking about shock. Well, maybe some folks out there may not really understand what shock is. What causes shock? What does that do? That's a good question right there. Shock occurs because the hydraulic fluid is so rigid. A lot of people are not aware that liquids don't compress, and hydraulic fluid is mostly liquid. Now, when I say mostly liquid, it looks like it's all liquid, but there is a small amount of air in there. So hydraulic fluid will compress a very small amount, but not very much, right? It's a negligible amount until you get to very high pressures. However, for the most part, a hydraulic connection is every bit as rigid as a solid steel connection. Right.
So if we have sudden changes in the system, we're going to develop shock spike. 4, 6, 8,000 psi is not uncommon at all. Then it will drop to actual load pressure, and that's where shock comes from. Sudden changes.
So those pressure spikes will exceed the rating of components in the system.
Well, beyond them. That's exactly right. In a pressure compensating pump system, we will almost always have a relief valve. And people wonder, well, why do we have a relief valve when the pump controls the pressure? Well, that's one reason. One of the reasons is because the compensator is not responsive enough to de-stroke the pump and reduce the pressure when it incurs a spike. A relief valve, on the other hand, could just open up like that
instantaneous,
and dump it back to tank. So that's one real good reason for a leak.
So we should make sure our pressures are set correctly and where they're supposed to be.
Yes, if the pressures are set even a little bit too high, it can make a big difference when a sudden change occurs in the system. Okay. Let's see, there's other causes, I suppose, but those are the primary causes. I would say those are the big ones, I would say. Okay.
And overheating.
Overheating, yeah, the oil gets thinner when it's hot.
Well,
and it makes it easier to seep through.
Well, the hotter it gets, it can causes the rubber and O-rings, hoses.
Well, that too, they
break down and degrade, and that can cause leaks.
Yeah.
A lot of times, excessive heat can be contributed to pressure set incorrectly as well.
That's right. That's right. It certainly can. Certainly can. And if we don't pay attention to temperature, it's going to cost us a lot of money in the long run. The hydraulic oil starts breaking down at about 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So we start losing lifespan at that point. Up to that point, it can last almost forever because it's a mineral. It doesn't wear out, it just gets dirty unless it gets chemically damaged.
Well, thank you, Jack and Philip. I hope that answered your question. And you guys be sure to send us some more questions for us to answer. And no pressure.
No pressure.